been a minute. Hi. Hi. So I haven't uploaded a video since February. I was planning to take a little break because I was going to go on a trip, and now it's July. Things look different. So, long story short, as soon as we got back from that trip in February, we started house hunting. And that, plus a bunch of other things, filming just didn't happen. Spoiler, we found a house. I did film a bunch of packing and decluttering and a little bit of house prep stuff. I have so many hours of footage. I maxed out my hard drive, so that was fun. So the thought of having to go through that and start to edit it down into coherent videos is overwhelming. So we're gonna start with this video to just break the ice. Clearly my books are still all in boxes because I wanted to film unpacking them. But that's gonna be a whole ass thing. So let's start with this. Okay, so I don't remember who, off the top of my head, I don't remember who started this tag, but I know that Angela at Literature Science Alliance has added a few of her own questions to this, so when her video popped up, that kind of inspired me to write down the notes, to prep to film this. So I will link the original video, if that is still available, in the description box below, as well as Literature Science Alliance's video if you want the source of those additional questions that she has come up with. Okay, question number 1. What is the... I have abbreviated questions here, so I might get the wording a little weird. Sentiment's fine. It's fine. Question number 1. What is the best book you have read so far this year? Of course, I cannot just have one answer, but I just finished reading Babel by R.F. Kuang, which is everything I want in an academic revolutionary fantasy. Her writing is exquisite. I know there's some mixed feelings about the execution and I recently watched Beautifully Bookish Bethany's critique of Yellowface specifically, and then some themes in R.F. Kuang's writing, which I don't disagree with what she said, but in terms of my personal enjoyment and what I expected from that book and what I got, it's way up there. I also want to throw out, I read my first Rick Riordan. I read The Lightning Thief. That one was such a spirit lifter. I absolutely see the hype. I can't wait to get around to reading the rest of the series. And then I also fairly recently read The Shamer's Daughter, which is another middle grade fantasy. I think it's translated, and that one was fantastic. And that's another one where I definitely plan to continue with the rest of that series. I'm excited for that one. Okay. Question number 2, what is the best sequel you have read so far this year? I haven't read a lot of sequels, but I did finish out the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers, so I read The Galaxy and the Ground Within and Record of a Spaceborne View, and of course, each of those books are, related to each, are in the same universe, but are their own contained stories, and of course, the themes explored in each of them are great. It always amazes me how she can have such cozy sci-fi books that still just absolutely pull your heartstrings all over the place. It's like a little bit of therapy. Question number 3, what is... Again, I have abbreviated notes, so the wording of this question might be weird. What is on your new release TBR? What is a new release this year that's still on your TBR? The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty. I bought a copy. I did? I did actually buy it, right? Yes, there it is. So I've been hearing good things about it. Or I guess like the people who've given it really good reviews, the way they describe it, what they like about it, it sounds like I'm also gonna have a great time with that. I guess this kind of counts. I'm currently in the middle of my e-arc copy of The Battle Drum by, what's her name? It's the sequel to The Final Strife. Oh, you know what else is great about this new house is I actually fucking get Wi-Fi in here now. So like when I can't remember something, I can actually fucking look it up. The Battle Drum by Sarah El Arifi. I'm still kind of early days into that, but so far I'm enjoying it. And then a book that did I buy it? No, I didn't buy it yet. I'm gonna check it out for because I almost spent $100 on books in one go, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So this is the one I put back, but I definitely hope to get to by the end of the year. This is Poverty by America. This is by Matthew Desmond. His other nonfiction book, Evicted. Oh, what's the full title? Evicted: Poverty and Profit in the American City, which is, I believe, a Pulitzer Prize winner. That is one of my favorite nonfiction books I've read of all time. So I'm super excited to, well, excited is a weird word because, again, you know, the topic, Poverty by America, it's not gonna be a fun time. So I don't know if excited is the right word to use, but I'm very, very interested in it. Question number 4, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? Sanctuary with Kings by Catherine Moon. The third, maybe last book in her Tempting Monster series. The first book is A Lady of Grave Manor. This is an erotic monster fantasy that, for the most part, the books in that series are reverse harems, but there's also a very well fleshed out dark fantasy plot of this evil character who takes umbrage with monsters having not necessarily monsters having human partners, but like the bad guy views the humans as kind of like prey rather than healthy, fulfilling partners. Anyway, so I'm super excited for that. Some other titles that I'm excited for: Rouge by Mona Awad. I've only read All's Well by her. I'm super intrigued by the premise of Bunny. I definitely need to get around to reading that, and the premise of Rouge sounds very interesting and a topic that I think her writing style is going to explore in a very interesting manner. I'm also excited for Godly Heathens by H.E. Edgman. Edgman is the author of the Witch King duology, which I really enjoyed. I'm here for it. So I'm excited to read what they come up with next. Question number 5. What was your most disappointing read of the year? 2 that stand out. One was Historias de Mexico, Stories from Mexico. This was a bilingual little short story book. It's like a book that you would like read in a class while you're learning Spanish, but I picked it up because it's, the idea, I thought it was going to be like a bunch of like original folktales from Mexico, and it did have like a couple, like it had like the origin of like the mountains, Popocatépetl, and the sleeping lady. I don't remember what her indigenous name is, but then a lot of the stories ended up being very colonialist centric, and some of the stories were like, one of them was like a full-on like slavery apologist narrative, like basically being like, well, she had a good master, therefore like it didn't matter that she was a slave because her master was good, so she was happy. Like, oh, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Absolutely not. So that was super disappointing. As an exercise in keeping up with Spanish keeping up with Spanish proficiency, it was fine. But content-wise, that was bad. It was bad. And then another disappointing read was The Ones We Burn. It was, I mean, I went into it blind. I just, it's been so long since I've just like picked up a book and been like, I haven't heard anyone review this. I don't really know anything about this. This looks interesting. Let me just buy it. And this was a fucking flop. And apparently there was a bunch of like drama about it, and looking into it, I'm like, oh, I actually watched a video that mentioned it, but it was like way before it came out, so like I did not make the connection at all. I'm going to link my name is Marinessa's reaction video to this book because she touches on some interesting things with it. I'm not going to get too far into it. If I'm going to summarize my feelings, it's the book itself was meh. It was forgettable. If these are, YA romance fantasy tropes that you're really into, it's fine. It's, that's not particularly a romance dynamic that I'm really a fan of. I didn't realize it was going to be so will they, won't they, enemies to lovers fantasy heavy, will enemies to lovers romance heavy, but without the context of the drama, the book is just very forgettable for me. In terms of the drama, again, there are people who have gotten way the fuck into it. I don't really want to dig up too much, but I do feel like I need to respond to it. My summary feelings are the concerns raised were valid, but the overall reaction was unfounded because it relied on people like trying to cancel a book before it was published and without referencing or relying on reviews of people who had actually read it. I think a lot of people were trying to cancel a book because of a thing they thought was in there, and for the most part people didn't do their fucking research to actually be like, okay, but is it actually in there? Okay, now number 6. What was your most surprising read of the year? 2 books come to mind. First is Song of Silver Flame Like Night by Emily Wenjao. This was surprising because there's a lot of things about, like, again, like the story and the romance and the writing style that, like, it caught me at the right moment. It caught me, like, in January, like late January or something. I was kind of in a slump and I was really into it, and it kind of pulled me out of it, and it got me really excited. So, and I feel like if I had read it, like, at another time, I would again be like, maybe this is just fine, but I feel like there was just a perfect moment of personal enjoyment with that book, where I got swept up in it. I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a Fourth Wing thing, where, like, I'm not saying that this is gonna be like a best of the year kind of thing, but, like, I had a good time with it, and I will have fond feelings for it because of that. The other big surprise was The Warden by someone Ford. This is a new release, and this was a fantasy with it follows a woman who's like a necromancer, lawkeeper type. My one critique with this book is the marketing blurb describes it as like very like Twin Peaks meets fantasy, and it is Twin Peaks in the setting in terms of big city lawman goes to a small town and weird shit starts happening, but that is not a unique Twin Peaks premise. When they say Twin Peaks, I thought they meant like David Lynch weirdness. It does not have David Lynch weirdness. It is, I think, a fairly run-of-the-mill, not run-of-the-mill, but like, it's kind of a mostly Western inspired fantasy, but like, I think it's well done. It's well done. I think our heroines kick ass. It ends on a heck of a cliffhanger, and I'm excited to figure out what the fuck else is going to go on in that world. So, you know, if my biggest gripe is just like the word choice with the marketing, which is like, you know what, it caught my attention, so I guess it worked. Question number 7, what is your favorite new author your favorite new to you author from this year? I see this is stuff because there's some repeat authors, and then like a lot of stuff I've liked, but because I've only like read one book from these authors, I'm like, I don't know if I can I have a really hard time judging a favorite author if I've only read one book from them. But, you know, some of my predictions are Rick Riordan. I mean, I had such a great time with Percy Jackson, and you know, that combined with he seems to be a pretty solid character, like just like person, like seems to be an influential person using his influence for good is kind of the impression I've gotten. So I think that's, you know, a likely candidate. And then also an author I'm excited to read more of is Shanna Porter. I read The Thick and the Lean by her, which was very interesting. I think if you're a fan of Mona Awad, I think Shanna Porter is someone else you should have on your radar. And I don't remember off the top of my head. She's got another book out, The Seep, which I think I bought a copy of. Is another, so I'm gonna read another one of her books here fairly soon, and I think she might be coming out with something else. Maybe, I don't know. But you know, I think genre-wise, her stuff is a lot more literary than I'm used to. But I feel like her premises, her writing style, and her execution. Overall, I'm going to be very interested in what she comes out with. I did feel like the ending of The Thick and the Lean fell a little flatter for me than like the first half of the book, but like overall, thematically, like very interesting. Okay, question number 8, newest fictional crush. Either of our leads from Gear Breakers. I mean, fuck, I'm gonna put up a picture of the cover art. I mean, mechanically minded, revolutionary babes. Yeah, that's an easy sell for me. Question number 9, what is your new favorite character? I had a great time with Sam from House with Good Bones. I know a lot of people describe that book as our main character has a very strong authorial voice, like when you're in her head, like, you know, her reactions, her sassiness, her sarcasm and stuff. Like, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I had a great time with her. And then also, oddly, I really liked Robin Swift from Babel. Not like I liked him and was rooting for him, but I thought his character arc was well done in terms of exploring the themes of how a person who is being exploited by the system can be so seduced by what he is given, and how hard it is to lose, like, the whole arc of like realizing that all of the comforts in your life are a gilded cage, and like however comfortable you feel, however pretty it is, it's still a cage, and over time will kill you. Do you preserve the little comfort that you know you have, or do you try to bust out in the hopes that what's outside of it might be better? But it's a big fucking risk. And anyway, I felt like his guilt, his complicity, his, you know, the boiling under, you know, the simmering under the skin, and then like when shit gets too bad, like almost going, you know, doing a whole 180 to almost try to make up for all of the shit that you let slide before. Like, again, like, not necessarily the most likable character, but I think, like, that's the point, and I think it was successful. Question number 10, book that made you cry. Okay, weirdly, Drowning, by this author here. This is this author's second novel. This is the second book by this author. She is a flight stewardess or former flight stewardess. Her first book, Falling, is going to be adapted into a film or TV show or something. But the premise of Drowning is a plane crashes into the ocean, and things happen, and the plane starts to sink, and things happen where not everybody can get out of the plane, so they seal the plane and then they sink, and they're like stuck on this ledge under the ocean, and so it's a race against time to try to rescue the people who are still alive in a plane fuselage at the bottom of the fucking ocean. And it's very Hollywood blockbuster action, but like, it made me cry because, like, this woman who's on the outside, who's one of the contractors trying to rescue them, like, her ex-husband and her kid are in there, and like, they're having a rough time, but like, just, it has, like, again, like, very, like, Hollywood action blockbuster, emotional manipulation, very formulaic, but, like, it hit the beats well. Like, it was super well done. Absolutely a fucking movie I would enjoy watching. Like, I could go on about, like, the action and the tension, but, like, the emotional beats of, like, I appreciated that she did not neglect the human and emotional element of the story. And the story's, like, not even very long. I think it's under 300 pages. So, yeah, that was surprising. And then, Of the Wild. Not like a huge tearjerker, but there's a lot of queer pain, finding a place of queer safety and queer joy. We have one asexual protagonist and one trans protagonist, and then, like, all these children. I have not read House in the Cerulean Sea, but I feel like, based on descriptions of that book, this one has, like, a lot of similar. It makes you cry, but, like, not in, like, a super sad way. Like, it is like about, like, the healing from the sad and scary things. And again, this one's not very long, and it's such a cozy little romance, found family, fight for your right to be happy and safe kind of story. Question number 11. What is the book that made you happy? Basilisk of Star Manor. This is a novella in the Tempting Monsters series. This one does not have the reverse harem dynamic. This one, again, because it's shorter. But, like, all the books in this series, they just... great smut, good relationship building, good communication, good consent, good world building, and it did add something to the overall plot of the story. But if you had not read this one, you would still be okay with reading the other books. Other books that made me happy, take a hint, Danny Brown. Again, and of course, like, another romance. Like, that one is much less dark, but again, like, I know I'm gonna have a good time with all the books in that series as well. Question number 12. What is your favorite book adaptation of the year? And I think the original question originally talks about, like, a film or television series, which I haven't watched a lot of adaptations. Earlier this weekend, I did go see a production of Solaris with Book at Repertory Theater, and that one I think was very well done. Solaris is a Polish sci-fi. What's the author? Stanislav Lem? And then they made a movie with George Clooney in it, which I think, like, is good. That one really amps up, like, the romance aspect of it, which is like not. Anyway, the stage adaptation. First off, like adapting a sci-fi to stage is I'm always super fascinated in how they do that. But they did it really well. I think they did a good job of using like the romance aspect, not to like turn the whole thing into a love story, but as an aspect to demonstrate the psychological pressure of this premise. So the premise is these scientists are in a space station orbiting a very strange planet named Solaris, and they are attempting away. And in an attempt to communicate with the humans, they receive these, quote, visitors. And they are corporeal, human-like beings, but they are formed from the memories of the people on the ship. And then as we learn more about who are these visitors in relation to their related human, I really appreciate that the play made clear that like someone is arguing that like these are people that we love. This must be a communication of love. I'm like, no, but these are also people that we have immense guilt and grief over. So like, you know, you showing me the apparition of that person, that is not a gift. That is not love. So what are we doing assuming that this planet is benevolent, and like that whole debate. Anyway, very interesting. So there's that. And then another adaptation, the only other adaptation I can think of is Doom Patrol. This is based on Marvel Comics. I have not read any of the original. This is on HBO Max, but this is a like reluctant superhuman superhero team, and it's very dark and weird. It definitely gives me Umbrella Academy vibes. So if any of those descriptions intrigue you and you have access to HBO Max, it's a good time. Emphasis on the dark and the weird. It's fucking weird. But you know, I'm having a great time. Okay. Question number 13. Favorite video you've made this year? I really haven't made that many because I stopped posting things in February. But in terms of like videos that did upload post January 1st, I think my favorite fiction and favorite nonfiction reads from 2022. I'm always excited to make those and talk about those. So I will link those in the description box below if you are interested in that kind of content at all. Question number 14. What is the most beautiful book that you've acquired? Well, whatever it is, it's still in a box somewhere. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of my copy of La Isla del Tesoro, Treasure Island. I found a copy in Spanish from my trip. And then my copy of The Lighthouse Witches. But like what you don't see in the photos is the waves. Oh, this is also the UK cover of The Lighthouse Witches specifically. I wanted this cover because it has a blue foil on it, and that's not something that you get in most of the photos if you're just looking at the cover art. But yeah, that cover is stunning, and I waited way too long for a Waterstones order to ship to get that edition. Last question, question 15. What books do you need to read before the end of the year? It's not a specific question for me, really. I do have a list of like all the books I acquired last year, and I try to get that TBR down to 0 by the end of this year. But I've been doing that the last couple years, and I usually end up with, 3 or 4 books that roll over to the next year. It's not super urgent, but I do that to make sure that I'm not like just buying stuff that's gonna sit on my TBR for years and years and years. I'm kind of an anomaly like that in terms of like of the books I own, I read 90% of them, and of my TBR, there's almost nothing that's like over, there's like almost nothing that's over 2 years old. I guess like my other couple of books that I do need to read before the end of the year is my Amnesia Reads Round 2, which I never filmed that list. I think what I'm going to do is when I do finish them, I'll do a wrap up of them and then give my Amnesia Reads Round 3 list. So in summary, my Amnesia Reads is I pick a handful of books that I already own and have read, but either don't remember or it's been so long I know I'm going to like read them from a totally different perspective. And sometimes I'm rereading them to be like, do I want to unhaul these? Anyway, so let me tell you what's still left on that list. Busted. This is a nonfiction about, I believe, like drug trafficking and stuff. Frankenstein, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, Shade's Children, The Headless Cupid, The Dark Stairs, The Moor's Last Sigh. So those are books that I would like to read. I mean, those are not even like read by the end of the year, but those are books I would like to finish in the near-ish future. And then I'll pick, another like 10 or 12 books for that next batch. All right, that's the video. Cool. Now I just gotta fucking edit this. And oh my god, we have much faster internet in this house. Okay, there's my motivation. I gotta edit this so I can see what's the upload time. Because we are finally fucking free of Comcast. Y'all, they can go kick rocks. If you have made a mid-year Freakout tag video, let me know in the comments below. Or if there's any of those questions that you just kind of like feel like answering, please feel free to share. Yeah. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I encourage you to go out into the world and be curious. I will have my social media and other places where you can find me in the description box below. And I'll catch you folks in my next video. It may be footage that I filmed like 2 or 3 months ago. We're not going to worry about it. It's going to be great. All right.